hit enter, you can see hello world got printed. This is how you use it in command prompt. We're not going to be doing this. I'm just trying to show you all the different ways with which you can
I'm just trying to
enter
show
your
you
Python code.
all the different ways with which you can. I'm just trying to show you
Python
all the different ways with which you can.
wherein you type your code over here, right? Hello world. And when you save it, use save as. And when you save as, you gotta direct it to whichever folder you want to direct it to, like desktop in our case. Give the file name without any space .py, which will be your Python extension. So all Python files are saved as a .py extension. And then you change the save as type to all files and hit save. Now your file has been saved over here. We'll go into command prompt. Now in command prompt, I'm currently at C column users and my name over here, but in your system will show your name. So we want to go into desktop. So I'll hit CD space D. I can write the entire thing desktop or I can just press tab. Okay. And it'll show me all the folders that are starting with D. So I'll select desktop and hit enter. So we have entered the desktop folder and here we'll just write Python space the name of your file, which is hello world dot py and enter. And as you can see, hello world got executed over here. Again, this is something you can use, but we're going to make use of the IDE. So let's see how we do that. So when you start the IDE, if you're completely new, then these also wouldn't show up. It would be completely empty, and you'll basically be just seeing these three buttons actually: new project, open, and get from VCS. So what this basically means is you're just trying to create a new project. So a new project is nothing other than a folder which consists of Python files. So we'll create a folder here and we'll name it Python course. All right, I'm going to keep this here, and I'll click open now. And in open, I'm going to look for that folder. So inside my name, I'm going to look for desktop. Inside desktop, we have to select that folder over here. All right. So as you can see the folder over here, you can also add the files inside it if there were any, but we just want to select the folder and hit OK. All right. So this is your IDE. And in this IDE, the Python course folder that you have just selected, which is this one, got added over here, and a main file got added as well. Okay. So all your folders will be shown over here. The files inside your folders will be shown inside this, and you can run multiple tabs of the file as well. To run the file, you can just go up here and click on run. And here, as you can see, a high PyCharm has been executed. But let's not look at that right now. Let's try and understand this IDE. So in this over here, you're seeing main. If you're new to it, it would probably show add configuration. So let me just remove this first and show it to you. So yeah, as you can see over here, it's showing add configurations. So when you click on add configurations, you have this add new configuration button here. You click on this and you select Python. Inside this, you got to give it a name. So I'm just going to give it as Python course. So I know which configuration I'm using. And then I have to give a script or the script path basically, which will be automatically directed to the project folder. And inside this, I can just directly select my file and click OK. Now here comes the interpreter. So the interpreter is what you downloaded. So if you remember, we downloaded the 3.9. So that means even in my system, 3.9 is not showing up. But let's add it as 3.8 for now. So you just understand what I mean. Hit apply and hit OK. So automatically this gets added, and when I hit run, the execution occurs. Now in order to add 3.9, we'll go into file, we'll go into settings. Inside settings, we go into project Python course, and we'll select Python interpreter. Over here, you're seeing the interpreter to be shown as Python 3.8. But since we downloaded 3.9, in the drop-down menu, 3.9 should have been showing up. If it isn't, then here's what you do. You go into settings and you click on add. Inside this, you go to system interpreter. And you've got to look for the file where your Python was downloaded. So my Python 3.9, as you can see over here, was downloaded into this. So I can just select this, or I could select this three dotted thing over here, which is your file location. And then you select where your files are. Okay. But in my case, the interpreter shows up over here. I click on OK. And as you can see, 3.9 got added in. Once this is done, I can hit apply and hit OK. Now, once again, I can go into this. I can edit my configurations. And here I can change this to project default which is 3.9, or just change it to 3.9 over here, hit apply, and okay. Now, let's see how we run a hello world code over here. So for that, we select our folder or our project where we're going to be working with our Python files, right click and click new. And you can either add file, which will add a text file. But if you click on file and if you want to save it as a Python file, you got to name it as hello world.py. So you got to give the extension. Okay. So when you do that, only then will this come up as a .py file. If you don't want to do that, you just hit right click, new, and just select Python file. And then just give it a name. So this way, you don't need to save it as a .py and it automatically gets saved up as a .py file. Now in this, when you want to run your code, let me just shut this. Here, what you do is you write print. And as you can see, this is giving you an option to directly select what you want to write in. So the brackets automatically come in, right? And then you type in your code. So this way you don't make syntax errors as well, because the IDE will give you an option. So here I've written hello world, right? Let me just do one thing. Let me send this to the next line and just add a code. This is basically a comment. All right. So we're going to see comments and everything later, but just try and understand the hello world program. So I've written hello world, and now there are two options. First is you can directly click on this part over here and hit run. But when I hit run, if you're seeing it's running Python course, which is basically the main folder. All right. So the main file. But we wanted to run hello world.py. So you got to change this configuration. Okay. And you can add a Python configuration, and the script path will be hello world1.py. Apply and okay. So now when you run this, as you can see, it's running hello world. The other way to do this is too long for you, is to just hit terminal, which will automatically take you to the Python course folder. And inside this, all you got to do is write this name, which is hello world.py, hello world1.py, and enter. And as you can see, the code got executed. All right. In order to clear the screen, you can write CLS, which is clear screen, and the entire thing will get cleared. All right. So congratulations, if you've done this along with me, then you've written your first piece of code and executed it. I'll see you in the next lecture where we're going to be looking at numbers and maths function. So I'll see you there. Thank you. Hey guys, welcome back. So in this lecture, we're going to have a look at numbers and operators. Before we move into that, I wanted to just clear out some basic stuff for you. So the first thing I wanted to show you guys is comments. So when you write a hashtag and then you write something in front of it, this basically is a comment. So what is a comment? A comment is basically something that you could either use to explain a certain code, or you could use it to make the code more readable, or to prevent a certain execution. So when I say to prevent a certain execution, you already know that if I write print hello world and I try to execute this, you'll get an output. As you can see, hello world. But as soon as I add a hashtag in front, this gets commented out. And if I try to run this code, you see, nothing is going to happen. All right. So that's what a comment is for. A comment is basically something that you can use to make the code more readable. Okay. So in our case, we want to learn about numbers. So I hope you understood comment. But there's one more thing, which is a multi-line comment. So if you want to write comments in multiple lines, you just have to write something. Then again, add a hashtag and then a second line. Okay. However, you can have an alternative, which is something that is not really a syntax for multi-line, but it is something that you can use. So there's something called as a multi-line string. So you'll see this when we learn about variables and strings, but a string can be defined by using this, which is 3 double inverted commas. So when you write this and then you write like this is also a comment. However, this is actually a string, but because there is no variable, so there is nothing holding this as a value, Python ignores it. Okay, so let me run this. So one more thing I wanted to show you is how to run a code without changing these values here. So as you can see, this is print hello world, and I showed you how you can change it from here. However, over here too, you can either hit Control Shift and F10 or right click and run hello world 1. So whichever tab you're in, that tab will get shown here. So if I'm in hello world, right click and hello world over here. All right. So here I'm going to do Control Shift F10, and you can see hello world came up here. Similarly, in this, if I do Control Shift F10, you can see nothing came up here. That is because this is a comment. However, if this comment had a variable in front of it, then this would have shown up down here. There you go. So as you can see, it's showing us that this is a comment in more than one line. So this is because this variable was declared. That's why this got shown here. If you do not declare this, this, and you rub all of these out, and then you run this, it will not show up. All right. So I just wanted to show this to you because this is going to be important while you work with your code. All right. So that was comment. Now let's look at numbers, which is the topic that we wanted to cover. So there are basically 3 numeric types in Python. So the very first type is the int or the integer. Then comes the float, and then comes complex. So these are the three types of numbers that are available inside it. So let's see what all of them are. All right. So simply put, if I take a variable x and this is a number, just one, for example, this is basically an integer. If I say x is equal to, or y actually, because you already declared x, y is equal to 1.0, this is basically a float. All right. And if I say z is equal to 1j, this is basically a complex type of number. So what do I mean? An integer is basically a whole number which can be either positive or negative. However, you cannot have a decimal point, and this number can be of unlimited length. It doesn't matter. Okay. Then comes your float. In float, there is this point, which is your decimal point. This is called a floating point number. So that's why we call it a float. This number can be again positive or negative, and it should contain one or more decimals. Then comes your complex. So when we talk about complex numbers are numbers that are written with j in it, where j is basically your imaginary part. So this is something that's quite extensively used while solving complex problems in mathematics. But this is what I want to show you. Now you'll try and wonder that how can we be sure that this is an integer, this is float, and this is a complex. So let's use something to try that out. So we're going to write print, all right, type for a, all right, sorry, x. Similarly, we'll write the same thing for y as well as z. Okay. So what this does, type. This type function basically lets you verify the type of value or the type of object that is there inside this variable. So we are trying to print the type for x, the type for y, and the type for z. So let's hit Control Shift and F10, and as you can see, it's showing us for x class integer, for y class is float, and for z the class is complex. So this could guarantee you that these three variables, along with the values provided in front of them, is the integer type, the float type, and the complex type. You're done with understanding what are the different types of numbers. Now we're going to look at how you can convert a certain type. So you can also convert something like convert a number from integer to float. Okay. And to do that, all you got to do is write the number. Suppose we'll write a as a variable, and we'll say a is equal to float. Float of what? Of x. Because x is basically an integer, and we're converting x from an integer type to a float type. And to convert it to float, we just write a variable, say what we want to convert it to, and write the value. So after this, if we print a and Control Shift F10, as you can see, 1, which was x, has now become 1.0. Similarly, you can convert float to integer. To convert float to integer, you just write a value integer, which is int, and then y inside it. Again, printing this for b, Control Shift F10. As you can see, b, which was given an integer type for y, and y, which was an actual float value, has now become an integer type. And finally, you can convert integer to complex. To convert integer to complex, again, same thing. You just write a variable and say this is equal to complex, and which number you want to convert to complex. So in our case, you want to convert x to complex. So again, I'll write print. Let me just do one thing. I'll remove these values so you don't get confused. And we'll just print c, which is our complex type now. And Control Shift F10. And as you can see, the value of c is now 1 plus 0j, which is actually the complex of x. And x over here had the value 1. As you can see over here, x is integer with a value 1 in it. And c converted it. All right. So that is how you convert a certain number. Now let's look at the operations that you can perform on it. So you can perform multiple operations on a certain number. So let me remove all of these codes, in fact. And let's take two simple numbers. A is equal to 10, b is equal to 20. All right. So let's print a and b just to have a look at what we actually have. A and print b. Okay. Control Shift F10. And as you can see, we have 10 and 20, which is the values for a and b. Now let's look at math operations with it. So some of the operations that you can perform are addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, modulus, exponential, and floor division. So I'm just going to show you a couple of them because I want to make sure that you guys practice as well. So let's see how you do this. So for addition, very simple, nothing too complex. All you got to do is write x plus y into a variable. Okay, so I can do one. One of the two. I can say x is equal to a plus b. All right. Once given x is equal to a plus b, and if I print x, Control Shift F10, as you can see, the value here is showing as 30. Then we have subtraction, which is the same thing. Just I'll remove the positive sign, make it negative, and run it. And obviously, 10 minus 20 equals to minus 10, and the value shown up over here. For multiplication, you have an asterisk, which gives us the value 200. For division, you have a simple division sign like this, Control Shift F10. As you can see, 0.5. For modulus, you have the percentage sign that you got to use, and modulus is the remainder that occurs. Okay, so that's modulus. Then you have exponential, which basically means a raised to b, and that would be 10 raised to 20. So running this, as you can see, 10 raised to 20, and then you have your floor division, which is this, Control Shift F10. All right, so these are your final mathematical equations and operators that you can use. So I'm just going to write them down for you. So for addition, you will use plus. For subtraction, you will use minus. For multiplication, you'll use asterisk. Division will be forward slash. Modulus will be percentage. Exponential will be double asterisk. And finally, floor division will be double forward slash. All right. So this was the simplest way to perform mathematical operations on any of your Python numbers and integers. All right. So I want you to try this out. I want you to try assigning values to variables, changing their types from integer to float, float to integer, and so on. And at the same time, I want you to take two numbers and try all of these operations. All right. So all you've got to do is assign a variable, right? And give the sign in between. So just a quick thing I want to show you that I just remembered is if I directly write print with the bracket, I just write a plus b, okay, and I run this, that will also give me the same thing. All right. So this is best if you don't want to assign another variable and directly print it using a print function. All right. So that is it for numbers in math function. In the next lecture, we're going to look at the common errors that could be possible in Python and how you solve these types of errors. All right. So once again, I'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you. Hey guys, welcome back. So in this lecture, we're going to have a look at the common types of errors that could occur in Python while you're trying to program. All right. So first of all, why does an error occur? So an error in Python could occur when a certain statement is not in accordance with the prescribed usage. So that is called as a syntax error. All right. So when I say that, you should understand that the interpreter immediately reports an error to you. So we're just going to make use of the terminal here because there'll be a lot of errors I don't want to type here. So we just make use of the terminal. We enter into Python by writing py, and we're in. All right. So now let's look at the first type of error, which is your syntax error. So as you know, in order to print hello world, we had entered in these brackets, right? So if I don't write the brackets and I just write print hello and I hit enter, as you can see, it's saying that we have a syntax error. So syntax error is that kind of an error where the certain syntax is missing. Like as you can see, it's saying, did you mean this? So that is a syntax error. Then comes index error. So index is something that will be used in a list. So don't worry about what a list is. I'm going to just make a list here, but list is basically a list of numbers or anything. Like for example, we have a list which has 1, 2, and 3. So in a list, this value is the 0th position. This is the first position, and this is the second. Okay, so if I ask for the third position, all right, so I'm going to write L, and to ask for the third position, I enter these brackets with this value here, 3, and enter. So as you can see, it's saying index error. The list index is out of the range. So the range will be occur between 0, 1, and 2, but I'm asking for the third value. That's why it's saying index error. Okay. Then comes module not found error. So this occurs when a module is not found. You'll understand how you can import certain modules in Python. So when you enter the wrong name of a module, it will say module error not found or module not found error basically. So let's import not a module. Enter. As you can see, it's showing us module not found error. So that's the module not found error. Similarly, you have something called as dictionaries. It's kind of the same as list, but instead of just having values, you have key inside it. You have a key inside it. Like in this case, 1 is the key, and the value for 1 is QWE, for example. Then I have a second key, which is let's say 2, and the value for 2 we'll assign as this, and let's shut our dictionary. Enter. Similarly, in this 2, here 1 is the key which has QWE, 2 is the key which has WER. So if I ask it to give me the value for 3 or the key for 3, it's going to say key error because there is no key error. All right. Similarly, you have import error. So you saw the module not found error, right? So that was when I tried to import something called not a module. So similarly, when I try to import something from a certain module, so if I say from math, which is a module, I want to import cube. So I hit enter. You're seeing import error. Cannot import name cube from math. So although it's saying unknown location for math, that is because in my case, my math module as you know, in order to print has not been installed into my Python yet. All right, so that's why you're seeing the import error. Similarly, you have iterations. So iterations is also something we'll cover in the future, but just try and understand this. So I'm making an iteration. I'm saving a variable with an iteration in it, which runs between 1, 2, and 3. All right, super. Now you can run through an iteration by just saying next and then entering the variable in which the iteration is stored. So I hit enter. As you're seeing, it's showing you 1. Similarly, if I do the same thing again, it's saying 2. Now again, I'm going to do next iteration. It's going to say 3. Now, evidently, there's nothing after 3. But if I run next iteration again, it's going to say stop iteration. So this is the stop iteration error, where the error is thrown when your next function is going beyond the number of items that are there inside iterator. Then comes your type error. So what is a type error? So you know that we have strings, right? So when I say strings, so people who don't know what strings are basically anything that is not a number. So like A, B, C, D is a string, or even 1, 2, 3 could be a string if declared in that manner. So to declare a string, you use either a single inverted comma with anything inside it and close with another single inverted comma, or double inverted comma, whatever you want, and double inverted comma. All right. So evidently, I can also declare a number as a string. Okay, but if I try to add a string to a number like this, it's going to say type error. So that is because you're trying to concatenate. Concatenate basically means put together a string and an integer, right? So even in the English language, I can't ask you to add a plus 12, all right? So for Python, it looks at this as a string. It doesn't care if it's 12 or not, okay? So that is why your type error comes in. Similarly, you have value error, and which is thrown to you when a function's argument is of inappropriate types, all right? So like if I say integer x, y, z. Now evidently x, y, z is not a number, right? And I hit enter. You're seeing value error. So this is where value error comes in. All right. Then comes name error. So if I've declared or I'm trying to declare a variable which doesn't exist, so like if I write age, you see name error, name age is not defined. Okay. So we declared IT here, right? So if I write IT, it's saying that it's a list operator. All right, a list iterator, sorry. Then similarly, if I try to write another value which I've taken up over here, like L, enter, it's saying that L has these inside it. So when I try to ask it for something it doesn't have, like A or B, that's when you get a name error. So a variable which does. doesn't have any value that you have declared, or a variable that you haven't declared is basically your name error. Similarly comes your zero division error, which is if you try to do x is equal to 100 divided by 0. Obviously, this is going to be infinity, right? So if I do this, it's like zero division error. It basically means you're trying to divide something by 0. And you're obviously not going to get that. Okay. Then you have a keyboard interrupt error. Okay, this is the last type of error, which is commonly something that you could come across. The keyboard interrupt error is basically something that is thrown when the user hits the interrupt key. So like normally it's Control and C, and that is when it's executing a program. All right. So like if I try name is equal to input, right? So I'm trying to ask Python to ask me my name, right? And once I do this, okay, sorry, name input is not defined. All right. So that's because I wrote IMP input. So it's asking me for my name. All right. So if I'm trying to hit Control C, so as you can see, it's giving me a keyboard interrupt error. So I hit Control C, nothing came up on screen, but as soon as I hit enter, it said interrupt keyboard interrupt error. All right. So these are some of the errors that you could come across while you're trying to code, and these are most commonly attained error. There are many other errors actually, like attribute error, EOF error, which is the end of file condition error. So there are many errors actually. Memory error, not implemented error, OS type of error, overflow error, reference error. But these are some of the types that you would commonly come across. And obviously, while we're coding too, and while we're practicing our codings and exercises, we'll make sure that if any type of error comes, that I will try and clear that out for you then and there itself. So that will be in case something comes that's not of these types, right? So, but one thing you should keep in mind is that Python is there to support you more than I am, because as you can see, it's kind of already listed with a certain type of error, and it will tell you what type of error or what type of issue your code has. All right, so there's no need to worry, because whatever type of error comes, either you can go through our course and check for it, and if that doesn't work for you, what you can do is just Google the type of error that there is, and you will find what the issue is. Simple as that. All right. So that's it for the common types of errors that you can come across in Python. So I'll see you in the next lecture. But I guess before that, we're going to be going through some assignments that I want you to complete. It'll be simple assignments, but complete those assignments, and then you can move on to the next module where we'll be studying about variables and names. All right. So once again, thank you for your attention. Bye bye. Hey guys, welcome back. So to hit Control C. So as you can see, it's giving me a keyboard interrupt error. So I hit Control C, nothing came up on screen. But as soon as I hit enter, it said interrupt keyboard interrupt error. Alright. So these are some of the errors that you could come across while you're trying to code, and these are most commonly contained error. There are many other errors actually, like attribute error, EOF error, which is the end of file condition error. So there are many errors actually. Memory error, not implemented error, OS type of error, overflow error, reference error. But these are some of the types that you could commonly come across. And obviously, while we're coding too, and while we're practicing our coding and exercises, we'll make sure that if any type of error comes, that I will try and clear that out for you then and there itself. So that will be in case something comes that's not these types, right? So, but one thing you should keep in mind is that Python is there to support you more than I am, because as you can see, it's kind of already listed with a certain type of error, and it will tell you what type of error or what type of issue your code has. All right, so there's no need to worry, because whatever type of error comes, either you can go through our course and check for it, and if that doesn't work for you, what you can do is just Google the type of error that there is, and you will find what the issue is. Simple as that. All right. So that's it for the common types of errors that you can come across in Python. So I'll see you in the next lecture. But I guess before that, we're going to be going through some assignments that I want you to complete. It'll be simple assignments, but complete those assignments, and then you can move on to the next module, where we'll be studying about variables and names. All right. So once again, thank you for your attention. Bye bye. Hey guys, welcome back. So in this lecture, we're gonna have a look at the common types of errors that could occur in Python while you're trying to program. All right. Obviously, while we're coding assignments, but complete those assignments, and then you can move on to the next module, where we'll be studying about variables and names. All right. So once again, thank you for your attention. Bye bye.